Lasting communities have given way to temporary networks. Groups formed out of convenience and dissolved at the slightest sign of conflict. We are surrounded by people, but we rarely feel that we belong anywhere. Belonging requires continuity. It requires roots, and liquid society has trained us to be emotional nomads, always ready to leave. But this fear of commitment does not only affect relationships, it creates a domino effect that spreads throughout our lives, making even our most trivial decisions sources of anxiety. Career, personal projects, life choices, everything feels unstable, as if any choice is a burden rather than a foundation. And this leads us to the next point: the chronic anxiety that has become the hallmark of modernity. Liquid modernity has not only taught us to avoid commitments and treat everything as disposable, it has condemned us to a constant state of anxiety and loneliness. When nothing is permanent and everything can be replaced, we live under a silent and unrelenting pressure to always be adapting, reinventing ourselves, proving our worth. This exhausting effort generates a sense of restlessness that never disappears. Think about how obsessed we are with external validation. Social media has trained us to measure our worth in likes, comments, and shares. Our self-image is no longer built internally, but shaped by the reactions of others. If a photo receives few likes, if a story is ignored, if a message is not answered quickly, we feel an almost irrational unease. But why does this happen? Because in liquid society, being ignored means being irrelevant. And being irrelevant is the worst possible fate in a world where everything and everyone can be replaced. This logic also applies to how we deal with the future. In the past, life was predictable. You were born, grew up, followed a relatively structured path: school, work, marriage, family, retirement. Today, there's no longer a clear script. The world tells us we can be anything, follow any path. But this apparent freedom turns into paralysis. If all options are available, how do you choose? If at any moment something better might come up, how do you commit to any decision? This excess of possibilities, instead of liberating us, traps us in an endless cycle of doubt and procrastination. And then comes loneliness. Liquid society has sold us the idea that we're more connected than ever, but in practice, we have never been so lonely. We spend hours interacting digitally, but when the phone is turned off, what remains? Often, a deafening silence. Superficial ties do not fulfill the human need for deep connection. We may have hundreds of contacts, but few true friends. We may have casual encounters, but few meaningful relationships. And this leaves us with the painful feeling that, despite being surrounded by people, we are essentially alone. And what is society's response to this anguish? More consumption, more distraction, more stimuli that prevent us from stopping and facing this emptiness head-on. But is there a way out of this cycle? How can we resist the liquid logic and find something solid amid the chaos? This is what we will explore in the next part. If liquid society teaches us to avoid commitments, to base our identity on consumption, and to live in a constant state of anxiety and loneliness, the big question is, how do we escape this cycle? How do we find genuine meaning in a world that encourages us to never stop, to never delve deeper, to never put down roots? The answer is not simple, because resisting liquid modernity means going against the tide. It means giving up comfortable superficiality and facing the difficulty of building something solid when everything around us tells us to stay on the surface. The first step is to recognize the problem. Much of our dissatisfaction comes from the fact that we do not consciously see the structure in which we're trapped. We think that anxiety, loneliness, and the feeling of emptiness are individual failures, when in fact, they are symptoms of a system designed to keep us that way. Once we understand that this dissatisfaction is not just in our heads, but a product of the society we live in, we can begin to seek alternatives. One of those alternatives is to relearn the value of permanence. In a world where everything is disposable, the simple act of committing to something, be it a relationship, a project, or a community, becomes an act of resistance. Stability is not a burden. It is the foundation upon which we can build something meaningful. Instead of fleeing at the first sign of difficulty, we need to relearn how to face challenges with the awareness that nothing truly valuable is built overnight. Another way to escape this liquid logic is to disconnect from the culture of consumption as identity. This does not mean stopping consumption, but rather stopping defining who we are based on what we own. It means seeking a meaning that goes beyond external validation, fleeting trends, and the incessant need to reinvent ourselves to remain relevant. It means cultivating an internal purpose, something that does not depend on market fluctuations, social media, or the approval of others. And perhaps the hardest change, but also the most necessary, is to relearn how to be alone without feeling lonely. Liquid society has trained us to seek constant distraction, to never be silent, to always fill our time with stimuli. But depth, self-knowledge, and true connection with others only emerge when we learn to endure stillness, introspection, and the discomfort of being just with ourselves. In the end, resisting liquid modernity does not mean completely rejecting the world we live in. It means finding ways to navigate through it without losing ourselves. It means building islands of solidity in an ocean of uncertainties. And now that we understand the problem and have discussed possible solutions, one last question remains. How do we turn this knowledge into action? How do we take the first concrete steps to escape the emptiness of liquid society and build a life with more meaning? This is what we will discuss in the conclusion. If you've made it this far, you've already realized that the emptiness of modern life is not an individual problem. It's not your fault. It's not because you're not trying hard enough, not consuming the right things, or not keeping up with the frantic pace of the world. This emptiness is a symptom of something much larger, a system designed to keep us restless, dissatisfied, and always searching for something that never arrives. Liquid modernity dissolves everything: our relationships, our certainties, our very identity. It teaches us that nothing should last, that everything can be replaced, that always being in motion is synonymous with freedom. But has this freedom not become a new form of imprisonment? The great paradox of liquid society is that by freeing us from the old rigid structures, it has left us adrift. It promised us that we could be anything, but it gave us so much instability that now we no longer know who we are. It told us we could have any relationship, but left us afraid to commit. It offered us an infinite ocean of possibilities, but took the ground from beneath our feet. And that's why so many people feel this silent restlessness, this sense that something is missing, because it truly is. The question is, what to do with this knowledge? Now that you understand how liquid modernity shapes your life, you have two choices. You can continue going with the flow, adapting to every new trend, trying to fill the void with distractions, consuming experiences like products that soon lose their shine. Or you can start to build something solid, something that has depth, something that goes beyond the disposable logic of the modern world. This could mean truly committing to something, whether it's a relationship, a project, a life philosophy. It could mean disconnecting from the need for external validation and starting to live according to your own values. It could simply mean learning to stop, to be present, to endure silence without needing to fill it with constant stimuli. Because what liquid society fears more than anything is that you become aware of what is happening, that you realize you don't have to live in this endless cycle of dissatisfaction, that you can go beneath the surface and dive into something real. Now I want to know, do you feel this emptiness? Have you noticed how liquid modernity affects your life? Comment below and share your perspective. And if this video resonated with you, don't stop here. The next video is essential to delve even deeper into this discussion. If you really want to understand how to escape this cycle, keep watching. I'll see you there.